We're on a theme today of bald right-wing blowhards with weird squeaky voices, all yelling the same level of crap at everyone. So this is Mark Levin, author of the new book American Marxism, which looks like a pro-Marxism book. I mean, we know it's not because he's got his Trump American flag suit cookie thing over cookie. I guess that's it. It can't be a giant sugar shaker, right? Right?
Okay. To a Klansman and neo-Nazis, then deal with it.
Hold on. We can't jump in on us like that. If you have an
issue with Klansmen and neo-Nazis, then deal with it.
Okay, I think that's a good idea. All right. I think it's good that then Merrick Garland should set up a, make sure he deals with that threat and, equal to what's actually wrong. Okay.
Every attorney general has. Republican.
Oh, it's the same shit. By the way, same marching orders on Levin as Bongino's show as any of these others.
And Democrat. I don't know anybody who embraces the Klan or neo-Nazis.
Well, no. I mean, they choose subtler groups if they're going to hang out with you, and you don't. You don't. I guess hang out with overt folks like that. It's much more subtle. But anyways, go on. I'm sure he's got a great defense, but. I don't know anybody who hangs out with neo-Nazis, Mr. Producer, and I don't know anybody who does it, but they do have some points.
But then when you use white supremacy in a more ambiguous and generic sense.
Yeah, see, this is what it is. It's not, to say that that's where it's, and I do agree to some degree that calling people on January 6th en masse white supremacists does dilute the fact that regardless of their motivation, and there were certainly white supremacists in that group, certainly neo-Nazis in that group, but the one thing they all had in common is that they're all maggots. And so by talking about white supremacy movement around the Trump supporter thing, it kind of does wash out a little bit that they're 100% in the Trump cult, and that anybody in the Trump cult is more tacitly, attached to that. So, and is probably more of a danger.
That is to condemn over 60% of the population of the country.
What?
Over 60%. That's almost 200 million Americans who have nothing to do with the Klan or the
right.
Nazis or any of the rest.
Or the January 6th insurrection or, yeah.
Rest of it. What you're doing then is you're trying to project these white supremacists, real white supremacists, on top of everybody else.
Yeah, that's what we do. It's basically like it's like a color form.
In order to shut down everybody else.
That's right. Like when I call you out for being a liar or an asshole or making up, like I guess bizarre, vague economic or border policies that you say the Biden administration has, which is in direct contradiction to what they're actually doing. It's really just me calling you a white supremacist. I'm not really addressing. It's almost like, I don't know, if you took like a political thought, right? And you took everything that you disagreed with and you put it into that one bowl, and you insisted that everything that you disagreed with was you market tested a word, and you found out that it wasn't very popular except in certain circles that you can easily vilify. And then everybody else just has a sour taste about it because it's an antiquated and non-functional system. Let's just call it, for the sake of argument, Marxism. And you just put everything you dislike or everything that you can't prove is wrong into a bowl, and you call it Marxism, even though it's not technically, but that's not. And then you like write a book about it, and you use that as a way to paper over anything you want to disdain. You have a book. That's interesting.
Oh, I better not speak out. I better not speak up. I better not question what took place in the election. Or I better not question what's happening to the individuals who were at the Capitol building on January 6th.
Well, yeah, that has nothing to do with white supremacy. That's just I mean, it's obviously, it calls bullshit on the whole law and order thing, and we know that or whatever. And the election fraud stuff is not based entirely on some sort of white supremacist idea. Again, just because white supremacists like it or are for it doesn't mean. I mean, it's just I won't call. Tell you what, Mark. I personally will not call you a white supremacist for those thoughts. I'll just stick with moron.
I better not question critical race theory. I better just go.
I question critical race theory all the time. It has nothing to do with diversity training, which is what you try. Again, this is kind of the Marxism thing. Take everything you don't like, call it Marxism. Take diversity training and any kind of inclusive behavior or equity or equality movements, and you call them critical race theory because that's a bunch of like philosophical department BS from marginal tiny groups within marginal tiny groups within marginal tiny groups within a philosophy department of a big university that teaches master's degrees in philosophy and shit like that. And then because that stinks, you just try to wipe that stink on everything else. Right. So
just go along. And what's happening now is by the confluence of these sort of arguments, what the
well, that's not an argument. That's obviously just slander.
Democrats are now saying is the greatest threat we face as a nation.
Oh, son of a bitch. So that's the marching order this week. That everybody on the right is supposed to mishear that phrase. Please play the clip.
Nation is domestic terrorism, white supremacy, and white supremacists. And you say, what are you talking about?
Yes, what are you talking about?
Why don't you name the groups and name the what exactly?
They do. They have a whole list.
Exactly are you talking about?
Okay. Hold on one second, if I may. White supremacist terror groups. Okay. Top law enforcement officials says the biggest domestic terror threat comes from white supremacists. Specifically those who advocate for the superiority of the white race. It's a pretty narrow group. I would argue that even the Proud Boys in that crowd, because they have a few black and Hispanic members amongst them, that they are arguing the Western chauvinist idea that wouldn't even point at the Proud Boys as much as PBS and those groups would say it. Let's see. White supremacist terror, the key trends to watch in 2021. Here's the Brookings Institute. This is January 15th. Here's the 3%ers and the Oath Keepers. There's a guy with a Confederate flag. They're kind of all lined up. Painfully highlighted how the white supremacist movement is intermingled with anti-government extremists. Yeah, intermingled, right? Yeah, there's a mix of those. Conspiracy theorists, partisans of President Trump, and other causes. White supremacist terrorism has long proved a major threat. Let's see what this is. FBI director warns of Russian interference in white supremacist violence. They're already in the New York Times. White supremacist movement has steadily globalized as this trend comes out. There's another New York Times thing. Attacks. Hold on. Now I gotta try. Okay, I'm already in here. Hold on. I think I've already. Can I log in? Where is this? I don't know. What's that? Sections. Log in. Hold on. Give me 1 second. I'm looking this stuff up because we got to get this real stuff. Come on, man. All right, so here we go. I'm going to go into this. Here we go. This guy right here. There you go. Attacks by white extremists are growing. So are their connections. This is April 3rd, 2019. This is even so far, back to, here's white extremist attacks in 2011 to 2017. This is North America. Here's Europe. Authorities have confirmed the alleged gunman in a mass shooting in El Paso, Texas on Saturday wrote an anti-immigrant manifesto that was posted online just minutes before the rampage. The document claims to draw inspiration from the March attacks of 2 mosques in Christchurch, New Zealand. In a manifesto posted online before his attack, the gunman who killed 50 last month in a rampage at 2 mosques in Christchurch, New Zealand, said he drew inspiration from white extremist groups in Norway, the United States, Italy, Sweden, and the United Kingdom. His reference to those attacks placed him in an informal global network of white extremists. Here's the threats: Tallahassee shooting, killed 2. Toronto van attack, Aztec High School shooting, killed 2. Merrick Park van attack, Quebec City, Munich, Sweden. These are worldwide, worldwide. And the Christchurch. Is there a way to click in on these guys? No. Okay. Oceania has some issues. That's interesting. Rise in white extremist terrorist attacks. There's 2011. There's 9. There's 12. 2013. 2022. 2015, Papayao. There you go. And then 2017, there's 88. Oh, that's interesting. I guess that was a perfect year for the white supremacists. Dan Bongino won't get that. Bongino. Let's see. The analysis was based on data from the Global Terrorism Database and identified nearly 350 white extremist groups terrorism attacks in Europe, North America, and Australia from 2011 to 2017, the latest year of available data. We also examined a preliminary data on attacks in the United States in 2018. Let's see. Xenophobia drives the violence in Europe. Retaliation attacks targeting Muslims, anti-immigrant attacks spike. This is Europe. Okay, attacks in North America are more deadly. In North America, the ideologies of older white supremacist groups like the Ku Klux Klan have mixed with anti-immigrant and anti-Muslim sentiment with fresh-faced fascism of the alt-right to give rise to more lethal terrors. San Francisco, there's New York, there's attacks on places of worship. There were at least 38 attacks that targeted places of worship, like churches, synagogues, mosques across North America. Until last year, the deadliest of the attacks in the United States were a shooting at a Sikh temple in Wisconsin in 2012 and a shooting at a black church in South Carolina in 2015. Online radicalization, attacker who voiced his hatred of women and people of color in a manifesto before killing 6 people in California in 2014 signaled a new type of terrorist. The Southern Poverty Law Center, which monitors hate groups, called the attacker the first alt-right killer. Several more attackers who fit this profile killed over the next few years. Rising violence. 2017, attacks jumped in a tense post-election political environment. 9 of these proved deadly. There we go. Killed 2, killed 2, killed 2, killed 1, killed 1, killed 1. Let's see. Killed 6, and there's another one. And Baton Rouge killed 2. Okay. Preliminary 2018 data for the United States shows 5 additional deadly white extremist attacks, including mass shootings at high schools in Florida and Texas and at a Pittsburgh synagogue. And mail bombing attacks, other attacks. There you go. Global reach of white extremism. That's what they're talking about. That's all they're talking about. They're not talking about white assholes being assholes. They're talking about that shit.
If they exist, let us know.
They do. They did. But the problem is when they let you know that shit exists, then what you do is you go to like the most extreme hyped, Russian bot hyped left-wing freak out sites and go, okay, that's the same. All white people are the same sites. And then assume that that's what the FBI is doing when they're not.
But that doesn't sound like what they're really doing, ladies and gentlemen. It sounds
Ladies and gentlemen and Mr. Producer.
To me like they're trying to criminalize opposition.
No. Well, opposition to life, I suppose. And, those that are opposed to letting people be black or Jewish or Hispanic or Muslim while they're shopping, people who are violently opposed to that.
To American Marxism. They're trying to criminalize opposition to Joe.
What? How did this line back to your fucking book?
Joe Biden and his
What, am I kidding?
administration. That's what this smells like.
Mr. Producer, can you air out the studio?
Well, let's take a listen. Go.
I'm pleased to announce that the administration...
Oh, my God. It's the same... Oh, Mark. And here I thought that Bongino was special in his idiocy.
...is today releasing the first national strategy for countering domestic terrorism.
Domestic terrorism. First strategy for countering domestic terrorism.
Each of your components will play an important role in
Each of your components.
ensuring its success. Our current effort...
Wait. Why'd you cut something out of there? Mark, are you falling asleep? What's happening? We've lost Mark. Sorry, guys.
...comes on the heels of another large and heinous attack, this time the January 6th assault on our nation's...
The January 6th assault on our nation's capital. I went back
Yes. It was a... There were a couple of folks in there who weren't Snow White, but if we're gonna use kind of bell curve concepts,
looked at this morning. The assault on January 6th. The Capitol building has been assaulted, as it turns out, too many times.
Yes, one too many is too many.
The last time it was truly assaulted was a bombing effort. And it was a bombing effort by...
A bombing effort.
The Weather Underground movement.
Uh-huh.
Which, incidentally, its ideological founder was Herman Marcuse, the same ideological founder of critical
American Marxism.
race
Right.
theory, a Marxist, again,
Uh-huh.
and explained in the book.
Hold on one second. This is kind of important. Hold on one second. Weather underground. Let's see. This would be a good one. Probably something like that. Let's see. Whoops. Let's see. The Weather Underground. Weather Underground reported subcommittee. Weather Underground. There you go. Weather Underground Capitol bombing. Let's see. This day in history. 1971, March 1st. Bomb explodes in Capitol building. A bomb explodes in Capitol building in Washington, D.C., causing an estimated $300,000 damage, but hurting no one. A group calling itself the... Oops, get out of here. Group calling itself the Weather Underground claimed credit for the bombing, which was done in the protest of the ongoing U.S.-supported Laos invasion. The Laosian invasion, sure. The so-called weathermen, the so-called underground weathermen, were a radical faction of the Students for a Democratic Society, SDS. The weathermen advocated violent means to transform American society. The philosophical foundations of the weathermen were Marxist in nature. They believed that militant struggle was key to striking out against the state to build a revolutionary consciousness amongst the young. Yes, nothing really drives young people who are just learning about sex and discovering their favorite bands and stuff to get really politically motivated like some asshole setting off a bomb in a public place. Particularly the white working class. Their primary tools for achieving these ends were arson and bombing. You know, because that's what the kids are into. Among the other targets of Weatherman bombings were the Long Island Courthouse, the New York Police Department headquarters, the Pentagon, and the State Department. No one was killed in these bombings because the bombers always called in advance, in an advance warning. Well, that was nice. At least, you know, did the January 6th rioters, did they call ahead? However, 3 members of the Weather Underground died on March 6, 1970, when the house in which they were constructing bombs exploded. So there's the lesson, kids. Don't construct bombs. Don't bomb shit to get your political needs met, and don't plan on bombing anyone. We here at the Hal Sparks livestream are anti-bombing, just for the record. But please go ahead and tell us how the folks that planted a bomb in the Capitol, causing $300,000 worth of damage, and called ahead, are exactly the same as people who beat a cop nearly to death with a Blue Lives Matter flag and tased another one until he had a heart attack and tried to gouge out the eyes of another and then crushed another guy's, spinal discs and his ribs.
And it turns out that people involved in the bombing include Bill Ayers. Now, who's Bill?
Well, yeah, he was one of the people who led the Weather Underground, yeah.
Bill Ayers. You know who Bill Ayers is? Bill Ayers was a buddy with Barack Obama. Nobody cared about.
It's weird. He would have been very disappointed that his buddy joined the system and rose to run it.
About that, did they, in the media when he was running for president of the United States?
Yeah, it was almost nonstop.
Literally, a bomb went off in the Capitol building because they wanted to take it down.
In 1971. How long had Barack Obama been a member of the Weather Underground in 1971? Dun, 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 dun. He was 7 or something.
It didn't work. They caused...
Well, I mean, it did work. Caused $300,000 worth of damage. It didn't kill anybody. But understand, Mark Levin only thinks a bomb works if it kills people.
Significant damage. How about the Puerto Rican separatist movement? They attacked the Capitol building too and killed several people.
Uh-huh.
Wow, that's domestic terrorist, is it not? Terrorism?
Well, not technically, because in their minds we were taking over a territory. And by the way, if this is Mark Levin coming out and for Puerto Rican statehood, I guess we have to take our little wins where we can.
And that same movement attacked and killed police and others in New York. Now, it's very interesting that one Democrat president, Bill Clinton, gave clemency to 17 of the 18 FALN terrorists. But there was one holdout, the leader of the group, who was not remorseful and wouldn't denounce what he did. So Barack Obama came in later and pardoned him, even though he never lamented anything that he had done. So let's talk about...
So When Trump pardons Paul Manafort, who found men on Craigslist to sexually assault his wife, who had been left with brain damage after a car accident, and his own daughters won't talk to him because of it. And also, when he was working in Ukraine, worked with the president there to set up agent provocateurs on May Day so that they would, so that snipers would have a reason to fire into the crowd. That was bad. Okay, good. All right, just clarifying.
Talk about what's happened at the
let's have a double standard if we're going to have a standard.
Capitol building. Let's talk about insurrection efforts. Let's talk.
Yes, let's talk about how the fact that the president at the time wasn't Puerto Rican, that it was decades before, and let's see. Hold on. Well, let me see. Pardon of Puerto Rican separatists. This is pardon sought for prisoner who fought for Puerto Rican independence. Clemency decision was controversial to his supporters. He is a there we go. This is the dude he's talking about during the Obama administration, I guess. Or wait, here we go. One of President Obama's last acts in office was to grant clemency to dozens of people, including Puerto Rican nationalist Oscar Lopez Rivera. On Wednesday, Lopez Rivera was released from house arrest in Puerto Rico. Okay, so he's on house arrest in Puerto Rico. The 74-year-old had been in custody for seditious conspiracy since 1981. So he's been on house arrest since 1981. How many hurricanes have happened in Puerto Rico since 1981? See you later, Oscar. Yeah, the winds are coming. You guys stay in the house, though. The clemency decision was controversial. To his supporters, he's a freedom fighter for the cause of Puerto Rico and independence. To others, he's a terrorist. NPR's Kelly McEvers noted at the time. Lopez Rivera was part of a militant group that fought for Puerto Rican independence called the FALN. Between 1974 and 1983, the FALN claimed responsibility for more than 70 bombings in New York, Chicago, and Washington, D.C. Marlon Bishop and Maria Hinojosa of NPR's Latino USA have reported the bombings caused millions in property damage, dozens of injuries, and 5 deaths. Lopez Rivera wasn't charged in connection with the bombings, but for his role in the FALN. So he wasn't engaged in the bombing part. He was just a separatist. Okay. The FBI has no physical evidence to prove that Lopez Rivera set any bombs himself, so instead he was tried for a seditious conspiracy to overthrow the power of the United States in connection with the 28 FALN bombings in Chicago. So his supporters essentially say that seditious conspiracy is, quote, a political crime for simply opposing the United States government, and they say that his 55-year sentence was essentially unfair, but his opponents say that he is essentially an unrepentant terrorist. On Wednesday, Lopez Rivera emerged from his daughter's home in San Juan, Puerto Rico. According to the Associated Press. He had been transferred from a prison in Terre Haute, Indiana, weeks after Obama commuted his sentence. I see. Roughly 50 people congregated in the streets outside the apartment building in San Juan Santurce district, holding flowers and Puerto Rican flags, some chanting "Free at Last." The news service added a group of singers from the University of Puerto Rico's choir harmonized as Oscar drove past. So clearly, the University of Puerto Rico is a terrorist sympathizing organization. The AP says Lopez Rivera is expected to be honored in Chicago later this week, and as well as at June 11th, Puerto Rican Day Parade along New York's Fifth Avenue. As NPR reported, a number of high-profile figures called for Obama to grant him clemency, including Bernie Sanders, Hamilton creator Lin-Manuel Miranda, and Archbishop Desmond Tutu. Chelsea Manning, the Army private who leaked a huge trove of military secrets to WikiLeaks, was part of the same group of 209 people whose sentences were commuted. In January, Manning also walked free today. So, obviously, we're on the wrong side of history if we are with Bishop Desmond Tutu, Lin-Manuel Miranda, and, of course, Barack Obama.
Let's talk about the Democrat Party. Now,
yeah, let's do it.
Everything I'm telling you is historical fact. And yet, isn't it interesting, the news media, I don't care who they are, never discuss it.
I don't know why they don't bring it up. I mean, I'm just reading articles from NPR about it being controversial and the story when it happened. I don't know why nobody brings it up. The left-wing media, especially, like the New York Times and the Washington Post and NPR, which had the articles that I just cited.
So the idea that this was an insurrection is appalling. It is a...
Well, no, it's directly an insurrection because the Puerto Rican thing was just, they were bombing it, use terrorism to try and separate. They're trying to reclaim Puerto Rico as a separate territory. And the Weather Underground was trying to stop the American military campaign in Laos using military means. And they were calling ahead, whereas the January 6th insurrectionists were there to stop the counting of electoral votes and install Donald Trump as president. And if they had time for it, hang the vice president and kill Nancy Pelosi and a bunch of other, and the squad. So yeah, kind of different, kind of crucial to the function of democracy. And all right.
It is a lie. And yet it is repeated by guys like this because they want to use it as an opportunity to grab power.
To grab, that's what he's doing. That's what, yeah. If you can say anything about Merrick Garland, he's just been clamoring for power his whole life.
To use power and to crush opposition. That's
right. Now, granted, the opposition in this case are people who think slavery should still be legal. But
exactly what's going on. And you have to have the guts to say it. Go ahead.
We have now, as we have then, an enormous task ahead. The resolve and dedication with which the Justice
I appreciate the edits you're putting in there.
Justice Department has
Mark.
approached the investigation of the January 6th attack reflects the seriousness with which we take this assault on a mainstay of our democratic system.
Now, this is outrageous.
Yeah, it's outrageous that anybody would charge the Capitol, yell hang Mike Pence, beat cops, tase them, build a gallows, hunt for Nancy Pelosi, wipe shit on the walls. Oh, that's not what you're talking about. Sorry, you're talking about vilifying those poor people.
I'm not going to go over my Sunday show on Fox again.
Thank God, because no one has time for that, and my bowels couldn't take it.
But this is a man who's intimately involved in the maltreatment and abuse of American citizens.
Sorry. The maltreatment and abuse of American citizens. You sure as shit don't mean Officer Sicknick or the cop that was tased or the cop that had his eyes gouged out nearly, the one who lost his thumb. No. You mean the folks that were beating cops with Blue Lives Matter flags?
Who are in jail, not one of whom has seen the inside of a courtroom trial yet. Just
tough,
keep that in.
Yeah, tough shit. I mean, Trump appointed all these judges. Why is there a backlog? Holy hell.
This is the same man who excused the violent riot and
horrible
attacks on police officers and an attack on a federal courthouse. He used to work in a federal courthouse.
Sorry, he excused them? What did he say? That we need more of that? It was okay? You can't really... How did he excuse it?
In Portland, Oregon, night after night for 100 nights.
Right, and Merrick Garland came out and said, what do you expect? We should, if we don't if there isn't violence, how is anybody going to listen? That sounds like something Merrick Garland said.
They were trying to break in, shut down that place and burn it down. He said it's different because that happened at night. You truly have...
Sorry? It's different because it happened at night? I'm sure. I don't need any more context than that.
Off your marbles.
He looks like a vegetarian Hannibal Lecter.
To find that as some kind of significant...
Sorry, you have to be off your what?
It's different because that happened at night. You truly have to be off your marbles.
Yes, I definitely have to be off your marbles. Off your rocker, lost your marbles. For fuck's sake. Where did these... All right, for how much hate they spew at ESL speakers.
To find that as some kind of significant distinction. He didn't...
Yes, I'm definitely off my marbles. I'm not eating any more marbles today.
Do that as terrorism. Or the attacks on the White House while Donald Trump was in there.
The attacks on the White House while Donald Trump was on there. Yes. Did he excuse those? So are those guys not in jail?
Maybe thousands in Lafayette Park trying to breach the fence to get into the White House.
Oh, they were trying to breach the fence by sitting on their asses?
To do what exactly?
Probably definitely trying to get to the fast food.
You had 49 United States Park Police who were injured, over 50 Secret Service who were injured. They had to bring in fences there. They had to clear out Lafayette Park. They almost burned down, if they could, they would have, one of the most important churches in Washington, D.C.
And Merrick Garland came out and said, if we found those arsonists, I want to give them a pat on the back. And what do you expect? You got to burn a couple of churches to get your point across.
Historically, they didn't show you the streets around Lafayette Park, which were hugely damaged, including the the Ronald Reagan building. They have a building there from the library, and I noticed it when I walked by it, as well
Oh, yeah, terrible.
as storefront after storefront after storefront.
Yeah, and Merrick Garland came out and said that was cool. And so when Biden said if people engage in violence or arson or destruction of property that they should go to jail, and that didn't make it through your skull. Okay.
Meanwhile, the FBI resources have been husband, and the prosecutorial resources have been husband.
That's, I guess, because resources and the crime are both male. This is even more gay marriage.
To track down even mere trespassers from January.
No, they're letting a lot of the mere trespassers go. It's just they're looking for the dude with the pipe bombs and people who beat cops and mere trespassers. Mere. I mean, there were a sea of people who managed to stomp one of their own to death, but mere trespassers.
January 6th. They've gone after, according to Christopher Wray, the pathetic FBI director,
that Trump put in?
over 500 people. Well, there weren't over 500 people in the Capitol building.
Yeah, there were. Hold on. Capitol. Right. You're going to have to give me a second. Images. There's a... I mean, it's obviously, we're not going to be able to count all these. Hold on one second. Let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, let's try this picture. Let's see. This one picture. I lost my place. God damn it. And these are all Antifa anyways. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 25, 35, 85, 101. Okay, let's count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Let's go out this side. You know what? Let's just. I'm just going to group all. I mean, I don't know how many people are up. That's about. Yeah, it's about 300 people. I'd say, somewhere along those lines. I mean, there's about 200 more in there, and then let's see if these folks are kind of. There's about how many people are in that picture? Let's see. Okay, man sees. Okay, here we go. Yeah, the stands are half empty over here. I mean, honestly, did they even sell tickets to this thing? There's a bunch of folks down there. Let's see if we scroll down, see any more in there. No, look, there's plenty of room in the Capitol. There's nobody in there. Oh, that's a Volvo. They are seizing footage from this. Okay, so yeah, that's about 310 people. All right, sorry, Mark. Go ahead. Yeah, there were.
And they're still holding back video that shows, in part, because we saw some of it, didn't we? But they're holding back most of it, where Capitol policemen were telling people that they could come into the building.
No, we saw a bunch of that or whatever, and that's because they were overrun and they were hoping people would go in and leave. Some of them did. Other ones, beat the cops on the line.
There was no insurrection. They weren't even armed.
Citation needed.
Go ahead.
And by the way, remember that Mark Levin said that the next time somebody with a knife is shot by the cops, or somebody with a baseball bat or a metal pipe or driving a car is shot by the cops, and he says they were unarmed too.
Peaceful transfer of power. Over the 160 days since the attack, we have arrested over 480 individuals and brought hundreds of charges against
any number near 500 gives them gas.
Those who attacked and law enforcement officers.
Yeah, so let's see. Armed people at the Capitol. Insurrection. Whoops. Where's that? Hold on. Sorry. There's a guy in the thing, and they're taking the thing, and there we go. And here we go, and the armed guys and climbing up the thing. And there's a guy who's got a gun, and there's another one too. And here's a bunch of people showing off their guns in the water. There you go. Oh, that's Michigan. There we go. And there's a thing. There you go. Our president wants us here. mob calls for that. It's fun. I'd attack a Capitol from planning a siege. Yeah, nobody in there's got a gun. I can see. You can see, right? You can see in this one, this picture right here. You can see, right? There's not a gun in there. Look, do you see a gun? I don't see a gun. Click, clack.
Officers.
Not one of them has been charged with insurrection.
Mm-hmm. Charges for insurrection. Mm-hmm. 521 people have been charged with in the Capitol insurrection. Sorry, no thanks. So far, this searchable table shows how many of them. Okay, there we go. This is a searchable table. I like searchable tables. Where is it? Oh, it's kind of. Let's see. Crimes in history. There we go. There you go. Charges: knowingly entering or remaining in an interstate building, grounds into disorderly disruptive contact, engaging in physical violence, restricted accounts, certificate of physical violence, Capitol grounds destruction, civil disorder, assault, resisting, impeding certain officers, knowingly entering or remaining. Okay, this is the. There you go. Commit. Let's see. There you go. Knowingly engaged in an act of physical violence in the grounds of the Capitol building, commit or attempt to, by any act, obstruct, impede, or interfere with law enforcement in performance of his official duties, forcibly assault, resist, oppose, impede, intimidate, or interfere with law enforcement. There you go. Let's just scroll through. I mean, there's a bunch right here. Obstruction of justice, Congress. Oh yeah, obstruction of justice or Congress. That would be the insurrection part where they're trying to stop the vote. Knowingly entering and remaining in the grounds, disorderly conduct. I mean, it's just dumb. Like, I don't even know why I'm even bothering with Mark Levin.
According to the FBI director, he's unaware of any.
And insurrection, where the breakdown of charges engages physical violence, attempt to disrupt Congress and its duties. It's an insurrection. I mean,
so why don't they tell us what they've been charged with?
They do. They've all been charged, and therefore, let's see. Is there a? This is a. Can we open this? Oh, page 1 of 65. Look at that. Let's go to page 2. Here's the charges, Mark. Look at that. Look at this whole thing right here. Here's what they've been charged with. Many of them for assaulting police officers, being on restricted grounds, assaulting, resisting arrest, knowingly entering or remaining in a restricted building, violent entry and disorderly conduct on Capitol grounds. That sounds like insurrection behavior. Unlawful entry of restricted building. There's a lot of that. Obstructing an official proceeding, restricted building. That would be the insurrection part of it. Restricted building. Violent entry or disorderly conduct, impeding an official proceeding. There we go. And keep on this. Knowingly obstruction of justice in Congress. Yeah, this is all high dipshit. You can look at all. I mean, this isn't even hard. Like, make it. Honest to God, if these were sealed indictments, at least you could hide behind that.
And some of them are going broke in jail.
Boo fuckity who.
Some of them are being destroyed.
By the way, anybody who's in jail because they burned down a Starbucks in Portland, fuck you too. I don't care. How is setting a building on fire with a coffee shop in the bottom, even if it's a chain run by people who bought the franchise to try and feed themselves and their family and who live above the goddamn thing and were put in danger, somehow an end to your political means? Fuck you too. Sorry, bye. And that's supposed to make me feel pity, like, or some sort of balance of pity for the Capitol 6 insurrectionists on Mark Levin's opinion?
Destroyed emotionally and psychologically. Some of them are.
The guys, they've been emotionally and psychologically destroyed. But enough about Don Jr.
Losing their jobs.
Yeah, so, it's hard. Yeah, it is hard to work from prison, but they'll get a new job pressing license plates.
They're pleading to this, that, or the other thing. And they're being
they're pleading to this, that, or the other thing. You mean the other thing where they stuck their thumb in a cop's eye? Or beat him with a flagpole? Or tased him with his own taser till he had a heart attack? Or stomped another maggot to death, a woman who died? Like those kind of charges, Mark, that you think they should skate on? Why should they skate? Because they're a majority white crowd and this isn't supposed to be a white supremacist thing? What?
Being held in these jails. Now, compare that to what happens to Black Lives Matter and Antifa in New York City.
Okay. If they do, okay, so the vast majority of the people, the 600 people who are being charged with violent crimes versus the people who just made it up the steps, who managed to break the law. They were violating the law by trespassing. They may have even been involved in the building the gallows, but they walked away because they didn't enter the actual building, pass the cops, push them down, physically engage with them. There wasn't any video of them proudly talking on Facebook Live that they, beat up a cop and that Trump sent them. So they got to go. Like a lot of the people who were engaged in violence amongst the protests, and then, of course, the nonviolent protesters, the people who are just doing the regular protests, who you believe should be in jail just for protesting in general, just for painting, the vandalism of painting Black Lives Matter on the street in New York, even though it's with, the decree of the city council. Those people should go to jail, right, Mark? And that anybody who was, who went in and looted a place should go to jail, and anybody who set fire to a place should go to jail. And of the people who set fires or were engaged in violence, the majority of the people who are facing jail time for a length of time, those folks are going to jail. Pretty much the same. It seems to be almost the exact same thing. Well, that's lovely. Thank you, Jay.
Or Portland, or Seattle, or any other part of this country.
Right, yeah. They should go to jail. No problem.
So-called bail reform, in the front door, out the back door.
Yeah, not for the elimination of bail in general. I mean, I know I'm supposed to be because American Marxism, but right.
That's not happening in Washington, D.C. with these people.
No, a lot of them are, even if they beat a cop, were given house arrest and a little ankle band.
Well, because, this is the greatest threat we've ever faced, the Capitol.
Well, they stormed the Capitol, so if they don't give a shit about storming the Capitol, you think they're going to give a fuck about the mayor's house or a police station? If you're willing to storm into the Capitol and hang the vice president, I as a threat, as a domestic terror threat, pretty much any other smaller soft target is fucked if you let them out.
The Capitol building, which of course it's not, as I just explained.
You didn't explain it. You padded your allegation with it.
The Attorney General, he's not using FBI assets to round up Black Lives Matter individuals who are involved in
Oh, I didn't realize I was downloading that. That's fun. There you go. Arson. See, arson and destruction at Justice Center, Portland, Oregon. How about these folks? They're looking, the FBI's looking for these folks. They did this stuff. That's just me looking at. Okay, let's see. FBI trolled Facebook to arrest protesters for inciting riots. Court records show 4 cases offer some insight into how federal law enforcement continues to monitor online speech related to social movements. So they were looking for them. FBI seeking arsonists during riots. There's this guy in a Friends shirt, which is he's not very friendly. Arson is not a friendly act, I'm just saying. FBI seeking public assistance to identify 7 individuals who are being sought in connection with arson incidents in Philadelphia during the riots of May 30th, 2020. FBI has a reward of up to $10,000 for it. I mean, I know Mark Levin wants you to think that they're not even looking. Let's see. This is reveal. Go after the troublemakers. Inside the federal government's unprecedented campaign to prosecute Black Lives Matter protesters. I get apparently not precedented enough for Mark Levin. Let's see. Justice Department protests against police brutality. Apple helps FBI track down. Here you go. Apple helps FBI track down George Floyd protester accused of firebombing cop cars. FBI seeking BLM arsonists. This is just kind of the general thing, by the way. This is these are pictures of them. Let's see. Some of these might not be what you're looking for. See more anyways. All right. See, back to the Black Lives Matter. See disparity of FBI on area arrests in Cleveland. Let's see. Let's see if these are the same kind of deal. I mean, obviously, Mark Levin could do this. FBI on 2 area arrests in Cleveland. The sole aim was to fan the literal flames of rioters. Oh, weird. 2 men from Erie, Pennsylvania were arrested on charges of engaging and conspiring to engage in interstate travel with a firearm. The intent to use fire to participate in civil unrest and riot, use of fire to commit a felony, and rioting. Brandon Michael Althoff, Long and Devon Bryce Poland were arrested in Erie on June 5th at about 6 a.m. That's early. Last Saturday, just 6 days before today's mass arrest, these individuals discussed planned travel to our city with the explicit intent to destroy and incite violence. These two were detained by members of the Cleveland Police Department in downtown Cleveland during restricted curfew hours. Their vehicle was searched. Items found in the vehicle included a firearm, numerous rounds of ammunition, fire gel, and a hammer, among other items. Law enforcement agents received a search warrant for 2 iPhones and Facebook messages between the two Erie men. None of the messages exchanged between Mr. Poland and Mr. Long mentioned how they traveled to Cleveland was to memorialize and honor the memory of George Floyd. Quite the opposite. The sole aim was to fan the literal flames of rioters because, and I quote from the message, "It's a once-in-a-lifetime thing." You think?
In violent activity.
Yeah, no, I mean, I could do this all fucking day, Mark. If you had, Mr. Producer, if you could actually get him to do some of the work for you, maybe you wouldn't show your ass like this. Seriously. Is your book American Marxism literally just page after page of photocopies of your ass and scrot as you sat on a photocopy machine? Because it would make more sense than the garbage that is coming out of your face.
Or Antifa people involved in violent activity. And by the way, in the case of Antifa, for years.
Yeah, for years.
For years.
For years. During the Trump administration.
So he's now exposed himself as one of the most diabolical individuals.
One of the most, yes, Merrick Garland is seriously, the most, thank you, I will try. I've got a little ice left.
In government. Period.
Yeah. Yeah. Step aside, Bill Barr. Move over, Paul Manafort. Buzz off, Donald Trump. The most diabolical person in government, Merrick Garland.
Period.
Want to see me?
Period. Well, sell it.